Welcome to Italics, television for the Italian-American experience. I'm your host, Anthony Tamburri. In this episode, Italics heads to Lincoln Center for the 24th edition of Open Road's New Italian Cinema, presented by Film at Lincoln Center and Cinecittà. This year's lineup featured 14 new feature films, ranging from celebrated directors returning to the festival to exciting debuts by 4 emerging filmmakers, highlighting fresh voices and visionary work in contemporary Italian cinema. The festival opened with the New York premiere of Francesca Comencini's The Time It Takes, nominated for 6 David di Donatello Awards, including Best Film, Best Director, and Best Actor for Fabrizio Gifuni. The Great Ambition by Andrea Segre received 15 David di Donatello nominations and won 2 awards, including Best Actor for Elio Germano's powerful portrayal of Enrico Berlinguer, the former leader of the Italian Communist Party. Italics was there to speak with the filmmakers about their powerful stories and the creative process behind them.
Perché noi sì.
È facile.
Teniamo 3 figli, teniamo la casa, teniamo tutte cose. Mi faccio piano curatura in alto.
I figli per magari sono chi si cresce, non ti fa.
Vittoria, the main story is a story about an international adoption. But beyond that, it's actually the bigger story of a woman who follows a deeply held desire to have a female child, right? To have a girl.
Ma tu vuoi sapere la figlia femmina? Ma non vedo nessuna figlia femmina.
People can't accept this. Like, they think it's a crazy idea, an irrational idea. And it's beyond a story of international adoption, it's also a story of following a desire that everybody else thinks is irrational.
Voglio un attimo in silenzio, ma c'era pure una bella notizia. Ma decisi ci piglia una creduccia, adottiamo.
The real story that Jasmine and her family lived, and basically it's a story that was that happened 5 years before we've been filming. We were working with Jasmine, the protagonist, on another film, and one day during a break on the set, she told us this story, and we were both astonished and surprised and moved by this story, and almost at the same moment we decided, okay, this is gonna be our next film.
È un sogno che faccio, che mi fa stare così. Sto lavorando e sta papà o la talla ravio e te ne sta creatura con la mano. Ma io proprio da quel momento che la creatura mi abbraccia, sto buono, sto felice.
Like any film that's based on a real idea, there's a lot of research involved, so many interviews. We wrote a treatment, we wrote a whole screenplay, which was based, it was very, very close to their real experience. And then we went back to the family, the real people who lived the experience, and then they interpreted the scenes that we had written that was based on their own life, right?
Teniamo mutuo, non fidanzamento ancora.
Ora mangiano 3, mangiano 4, mica è questo problema.
Se esce una domasca, che fa?
Ma io non voglio felice.
They did things their own way. Like, we didn't write the dialogue for them, you know? We kind of would decide the dynamics of the scene, but then they would bring their own way of expressing themselves.
Luce is the story of a young girl who is looking for her revolution, and so she has an idea, a crazy idea, to send a mobile phone through a wall.
Pronto?
It's like a child game. It's like let's pretend. So the main character, let's pretend to be a daughter, maybe, and someone inside the prison let's pretend to be a father. The inspiration was more a need, the need to tell something about our time. So the need that we have to create a revolt, a rebellion, and to find the tools to do the rebellion. And so the tool that the main character finds, it's only a phone, and maybe phone it's enough, but to create a rebellion means to become adult. So to transform herself and ourselves from a child time or a young years into the adult era. And to be adult means that you find the tools to do a revolution. This is the idea.
Buongiorno, 3 minuti.
Pronto? Cerco mio padre lì. Ma chi sei?
I padri sono strani.
Everything that you can see is what the main character see. So if you see out of focus, it's because her life in that moment it's out of focus.
Facciamone un'altra!
Ma lasciamo stare.
Non è colpa tua. Non è stata colpa tua.
The final idea is that truth is what we need. It's not what is really truth.
Il costume deve permettere all'attrice di entrare nel personaggio. È un film enorme questo.
La protagonista si sente così, si sente costretta.
Non è che mi ingrossa.
Ti si vede l'anima.
Io volevo fare da anni un film.
For many years, I've been wanting to make a film with my actresses. The relationship with actresses is different than my relationship with men. I think a different way of seeing things, a different kind of understanding between us. And I get along, I would say, very well with actresses. And these are all actresses that I've worked with over the years. I've made 14 films, and this is my 15th. And I wanted to make a film that was focused on women. And so I sat down with my scriptwriter, who is also a woman, and we thought, how can we pull this off? How can we do this?
E mi è venuto in mente, dico, siccome io ho fatto per 16 anni l'aiuto regia.
And, I had worked for 13 years as an assistant director, working with many great Italian directors. The first, for example, I worked with Massimo Troisi on his first film. And in the course of that work, of that job, I would accompany actors, actresses, and directors to the tailor shop, to the costume designer, to different places. And there I had met various characters. I met some costume designers who had won Oscars, for example. And I thought, that would be the perfect environment to talk about for a film like this, a seamstress shop.
Lo voglio corporeo. Una corazza sul cuore, luminescente, leggera.
Una pioggia.
Un fiume. Una cascata di lava ardente.
Ho aggiunto una cosa importante che è piaciuto molto.
And there's something new that I did in this film, which I know that the audience likes a lot. When I'm doing a film, I always invite all of the participants, the actors, the actresses, to my home, and we sit around a table, we have a conversation, and then we read the first draft of the script. And actors, they're animals with a kind of sixth sense. They know, when they read these lines, they know how to transform them in a way. And then after that, we wait about 10 days, I rewrite the script, and then we get back together for another reading. And so I included this in the film in order to show exactly what happened, and in a way creating a kind of frame of reality around the fictional story and then leaping from the present into the 1970s.
Per raggiungere approdi nuovi alla lotta per far avanzare il nostro paese, l'Europa, tutta l'umanità.
When we started to work on this film, we felt that telling the story not simply of Enrico Berlinguer, but the story of this huge community of Italian people, members or voters of the Italian Communist Party, and this huge community was really dedicated to the participation to politics, and the relation between life and politics was completely different than the one of today.
E i compagni spagnoli e francesi sbagliano a seguirvi.
E vabbè, questa è una vostra opinione. Spero comunque di convincermi. Non è me che deve convincere, ma tutti i lavoratori italiani.
So the lack of participation is exactly the crisis we are experiencing nowadays. So to tell this community of people engaging in their lives so much with politics was a way also to reflect our crisis of nowadays. And what was creating the strong link among this community was to have a dream together. And to have a collective dream nowadays is very difficult.
Un militante sia sacrificata rispetto alla causa per la quale lotta.
Since the beginning I had this idea to mix fiction and archives. I was inspired by two very important American films, Milk by Gus Van Sant with Champagne and Malcolm X by Spike Lee. They use archives and fiction at the same time, and I thought that was a very interesting challenge to create also the tension between reality and fiction.
Noi come ci muoviamo?
In the hope that the reality can help the fiction to be stronger and the fiction can help the reality to be more cinematographic. When I had the idea to make this film, Elio was the first I spoke with. So Elio and my co-writer Marco Pettenello, the first two persons I spoke with because I was really convinced that Elio was perfect for the character, not only because, of course, of his incredible artistic talent, and not only because of his body, because he is quite thinny and little like Berlinguer was, but the main reason because I knew that I could have with him the same feeling that we had to make a film not about Berlinguer, but somehow with Berlinguer. And our primary work was about the ideas.
It's a Sunday reunion, you know, where family members gather, and it's not always a happy reunion. When we are having reunion, things arises. I pointed out a very familiar thing for all of us, which is a reunion of, because, you know, I mean, talking about the life of domestic workers in Italy, the reunions are always precious because most of their times they are working with the families of their employers. So to have that kind of reunion is something that is like a gift, because it's a gift of time for them. It's something that is very universal. It's not only a Filipino story, it's also an Italian story, because in a way of like how this experience happened was also because of their experience in Italy. It was an unplanned film because the villa that is in the film, I worked there like a year ago before we shot the film as an assistant chef. And the collective that I co-created, which is the Il Mio Filipino Collective, had a performance in one of the cultural center in Rome. And the owner of the villa told me, Liryc, why don't you come here, bring your collective and have a rest? And so the idea to go there, it was really to take a rest. But then my collaborators told me, Liryc, why don't we make a film? It was not really like a big production. In a way, this film is also shared authorship, because of how we shared stories, you know, the input of the story, the collective, the way process of cinema.
Personally, it's the story about a young girl who grew up without her father, and she wants to meet him. So she's traveling there and she is confronting him with her existence. And the story is about 3 days of them spending time together, trying to find love and acceptance.
I'm Leo.
Casino, c'è stata una
I
mareggiata.
don't speak Italian.
So you are Anna's daughter?
Not just hers.
It's a relationship who can bring a lot of love and joy into your life, but as well some hurtful things.
I have a lot of questions, but I don't know if I like the answers.
What do you think? That you come here and everything will be about you? It's a bit selfish, no? It's a bit egocentric. What do you think? Hey, dove vai? I'm responsible for you.
When I had the first storyline in my mind or in my stomach or I don't know where, I traveled in autumn to the Italian coast and I found this place which was where we shot in the end, Marina Romea, which was so empty. There was nobody there, and there was this huge dune and all the bars were closed and I could see the father there. All of a sudden it was clear to me that the father is Italian. And when I decided that the father is Italian and he's living in this place, closing himself, barricading himself, I was thinking, well, it would be very interesting if the daughter is not Italian and they are so strange to each other that they don't even have the same language.
Vi conoscete? Ci presenti?
It gave us the opportunity to explore communication in different ways because we always think we are all just words and mind, but being human means we talk with our body, we talk with our eyes, we talk with a little smile or not a smile, and with how distant or how close we are. So it was super, super nice to explore all this while shooting as well, to the body language.
Canon Effimero is a journey into a hidden Italy. We traveled with our crew, discovering some very old oral tradition, songs from the very old tradition in some remote areas in the inner Italy.
We was always interested in oral tradition, also oral expression of human being as act of resistance and act of self-presentation, self-affirmation into the world. There are a lot of people out of the homologation of culture, so we think that it's important to preserve this situation because they are also talking us about our future.
Sulla Terra Leggeri, il mio film è la storia di un uomo che non ricorda più il suo passato e grazie a un diario che la figlia del protagonista gli mette a disposizione inizia un viaggio in cui più che ricostruire quello che è il suo passato lo scopre come da zero e quindi questa amnesia diventa un modo per rivedere sotto un'altra luce tutta la sua vita, a una distanza tale che riesce a scoprire desideri e emozioni che si è sempre nascosto. È una storia che parla di una perdita, ma anche della possibilità di ritrovare quello che si è perduto.
Écoute.
Oui.
Tu vois les deux là-bas? C'est nous deux quand on sera grand.
Mais non, pas du tout.
Allora, la prima ispirazione del film è stata il carnevale sardo. È un rituale appunto molto diverso da come viene vissuto nel resto del paese, in cui sembra poter esserci ancora un filo tra i vivi e i morti e dove un dialogo con l'invisibile è ancora possibile. E da lì poi ho allargato la ricerca ai sogni, all'amore, al lutto, a tutte dimensioni dell'essere umano in cui riusciamo a uscire fuori da noi stessi ed essere altro da noi. È stata anche la prima volta che ho scritto un film e devo dire che in questo ho sentito molta somiglianza rispetto al mio lavoro di montatrice, perché ho lavorato soprattutto in documentari di creazione in cui il film veniva proprio scritto in fase di montaggio. Quindi il processo di scrittura mi ha stimolato tantissimo e ho ritrovato tutta la bellezza che ho sempre trovato nel montaggio, però all'ennesima potenza, perché uno può inventarsi un po' quello che vuole, e quindi sì, è stata una bella avventura.
Les aviateurs sont très superstitieux, et les aviatrices aussi. Ils se laissent jamais prendre en photo avant de partir. Heureusement, mon premier vol n'est que dans quelques jours. Et si jamais il m'arrive quelque chose, avant de mourir, je saurais qui tenir pour responsable. Ce maudit touriste là.
Moi, dans ce cas-là, je le tue.
Ci siamo quasi?
Il percorso che fa Francesca.
The story, I would say, is very similar to the story of Pinocchio. And so let's begin with Pinocchio. I mean, the path that Francesca follows in order to be reconciled ultimately with her father is very similar to the relationship between Pinocchio and Geppetto. You know, they are both stories that are filled with love, with gratitude, and also with lies. And lies play a very important part in the story.
Apri per favore. Mi hai mentito! Questo ritrovarsi di Pinocchio e di Geppetto.
And they are reconciled ultimately, Pinocchio and Geppetto, when they both find themselves in the belly of, not the whale, but the shark, actually, is in the original version, the same way that Francesca and her father are reconciled when they find themselves in that hotel room in Paris.
Partiamo ora.
Quanto saremo via?
Il tempo che ci vuole.
The scene that I found emotionally trying was the scene on the stairs in Paris. It was not technically difficult, but emotionally.
Ed era quando saliamo le scale, quando Francesca a Parigi sale la scala e io non riesco a starle dietro. E lei mi dice: cammina, cammina. Perché non cammini?
Papà, muoviti. Cammina. Ho detto cammina.
Quella scena per me era straziante proprio.
I think it was hard because I think all of us have seen what it reminded many people. It reminded me certainly of my parents aging.
Come lei sa, i contatti sono interrotti per via degli arresti. Però
it's the story of two people writing letters to each other. Behind this mail exchange there are the Italian secret services And it is in a world where nobody, really nobody, has a moral code.
Our inspiration came from a real exchange of letters between this mafia boss, fugitive, on the run for more than 30 years, and exchanged the letters with the former mayor of his own village.
Ti posso fare una domanda?
E riguarda la missione.
Ma perché ancora tutta questa ostilità nei miei confronti?
A me interessa solo di catturarlo, di te non me ne frega niente.
We immediately recognized that it was the perfect key to try to portray the moral and psychological portrait of a piece of society in Sicily.
Non brilla per acume, ma è un ragazzo semplice, dolce. E il suo stipendio in questa casa fa comodo. L'intelligenza è una dote sopravvalutata. Guarda come ci siamo ridotti fidandoci della tua.
We are Sicilian, and we have grown up in Sicily. Telling Sicilian stories very dear for us, to us, for many different reasons. And the fact that this guy was a fugitive for so many years, and it was really something disturbing us, and we wanted to address it.
I'm very happy to be in New York, thanks to Cinecittà, to Lincoln Center for this opportunity. It's really good to share with also not only the Italian community here, the community in New York, but also the Filipino Americans who are also a big part of the lives here, also being domestic or in the care work or nurses, which I think they can relate.
It's an ambivalent moment for Italian cinema because it's a good moment on an artistic quality, and also it's a moment where Italian audience is going to watch Italian movies. I'm really curious to understand how American audience could understand the particular history and the particular identity of the Italian Communist Party that was actually very different from all the other Eastern and Western Communist Party.
We are used to work together, so we know each other. We are twins, so we know very well. I mean, now I know what he's thinking about, because it's not telepathy, but it's a habit.
Una delle qualità più belle che ha Francesca Comencini come regista.
One of the great qualities of Francesca Comencini as a director, and I would say in absolute, but in particular in this film, is that she knows how to make the actors comfortable. She knows how to place them at their ease on the set.
We must definitely, this is in Italy, but everywhere in the world, we must also defend our artistic freedom. Because they say that cinema is dying, but cinema is still strong.
Thanks for watching this episode of Italics. I'm Anthony Tamburri. Arrivederci alla prossima puntata.